Cap.
Women, we like to be the one that got done wrong. This is why we struggle with accountability. Most women chase bad boys because being with a bad boy allows you to end up being a victim at some point or another.
Why do they want to be victims?
It is programmed in us that poor me is some type of flex as a woman and as a mother. You can see it. Poor woman left with children to raise on her own. That is something that they get to flex off of. They believe it is a flex. That's why when I say it produces the worst product, the comeback is, well, he did it to me. You're not gonna get no award for that, and your child
Yeah.
finna be a statistic. So, bitch, what are we talking about? The bad boys will allow, you're able to say, girl, I was fucking with Tyrone, he in the streets, bitch. Yeah, he took me out. It was exciting. There's the excitement side, but then there's always, if this doesn't work out with Tyrone, I have a story where Tyrone was the one that did me wrong. When you fucking with a Russell, he ain't finna do nothing. You never finna be no victim. And so what that means is, if the Russell never finna do no fuck shit and try you, guess what you got to do?
What's that?
You got to step your character up and not be doing fuck shit neither. You got to be not texting niggas and fucking and being flaw, and you got to be a good wife and go home, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
With Tyrone, I could shake a little something on the side because he be doing shit anyway. He Tyrone, he the bad boy. So the stuff I'm doing.
I'm sitting here. I didn't even pull off yet, but I'm sitting here looking at reading Samantha Cooker's comments because the comments came in. I'm more interested in the comments than the videos a lot of times, and I'm reading people's comments. It's mostly black women in the comment section, obviously, because it's a black woman's thread. But there's a couple things that I'm picking up on. And this kind of touches on the video that I just did. I did it, what did I do it yesterday? And haven't posted it yet. I'll get around to doing it. But I guess this will just piggyback off of that video. But all jokes aside, first off, there seems to be this idolization of white men coming from black women who've never been in interracial relationships or long-term relationships. Like, black men have way more experience over the fence and interracially dating than black women. And so if black men say something about white women, Latina women, Asian women, whatever women, it's from experience. For most guys. I'm not going to say all, because you know how dangerous the word all is, but for most guys, it's from experience. And especially when black women accuse black men all the time of running around and tasting the rainbow, black men have experienced, these other women and different cultures and all that other stuff. When it comes to black women, a lot of y'all are putting these like white knight perfect man concepts on white men, and the vast majority of you haven't dated white men. Like, you haven't dealt with white men to that capacity. The other thing is, the focus is always on white men. Like, black men, they'll go out here, they want to date any and everything, right? Taste the rainbow. She can be Latina, she can be Asian, she can be Indian, she can be Arab, she can be, Latina, she can be Native American. Like, black men don't give a fuck. Okay? Beautiful woman is a beautiful woman, and they go from there. But with black women, and you can say this about, no, actually, I take that back. But I'm saying, technically speaking, you can say this across the board, that women focus more on power and the perception of power than they do just strictly on looks, right? And they've already done the studies, talking about like this sort, the ranking system where pretty much all other races of women prefer white men first and Asian men last, except for black women. That was an exception that was made, right? And so when see comments and black women giving white men all this praise. I fail to believe them. You know what I'm saying? Like it seems like it comes from a place of bitterness and a place of black female inferiority complex. It seems like it's tainted with the, that whole wanting to pursue the myth of white womanhood. It's more about addressing their inferiority complex than it is actually about digging and being into white men. A lot of us has talked about this, before, like even years ago back on Gen X. Like it wasn't adding up. Like there seems to be this blatant overcorrection when it comes to black women and their attempts to interracially date. Like just from, observing, black women in the comment sections and these videos that come out, there's this overcorrection. Like in the comment section, there's a woman talking about, like, one of the first comments that are on here. Where's this woman's comment? Love this for black women, and I'm glad black women are waking up. They deserve this! Exclamation point. And see, that goes back to what I said. I'm like, do you deserve this or are you owed this? Right? Because you know how we get into these wordplay semantic games. Black women deserve this. I never said black women don't deserve it. I didn't say black women don't deserve to be, to be treated well. But again, it seems like y'all like to gravitate towards, like, niggas. You gravitate. David Banner said this shit like back in like 2005, where he was pointing out, that y'all like to, and maybe it was in 2005, maybe it was like 2008. I can't remember when it was. It was like a BET summit, but he was like, the men you complain about are the niggas that you love to date. That was David Banner back in the day. You know how pro-black David Banner is. So you can't just come through and throw up some dismissive bullshit. But then she has exclamation point, pasta and lobster, LOBSTA, lobster, not lobster, like it's actually spelled, lobster, over here. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, first off, like, what is black? If I asked you what is black people's favorite restaurant, what would you say it is? Probably Red Lobster. Red Lobster is going to come up. So I'm like, where are y'all not eating pasta and lobster? Right? And we know, if we read through the lines, we know what this means, right? This goes back to that, I'm too good for a chain restaurant. I want to be taken, to some exclusive, like in Philadelphia. I don't even know if that's still there. The Charter House. You used to have the Charter House. It was right on the riverfront, extremely expensive restaurant, and that used to be like there was like a helicopter landing pad right next to the bitch. That used to be the, spot, back in, I'd say, late 90s, early 2000s. The Charter House, and it seems like black women, like they this overcorrection. And the reason I'm saying this overcorrection is because, like, okay, now you want to make it seem like you want to go to this, you want to be, what was the chick's name in Django? You want to be Shiva. You want to be like Leonardo DiCaprio's concubine. Right? The black chick, the sexy black chick in the pool room when the two black men were fighting each other, killing each other, and she's over there looking sexy, right? It's like y'all want to be her in the corner, sipping her wine glass, right? Being in these, like, bougie with the piano player or the violin player, and it's very, you got your salad fork and your dinner fork, and like you want to be at these sorts of places. Right. And, from what I've heard from brothers that have taken sisters to those type of places, black women feel really uncomfortable in those places when they're with black men. You'll get women that'll be like, can we go someplace a little bit more casual, a little bit more comfortable? Right. And so, like I'm saying, like, most black women are not comfortable in those places, especially those places where there aren't other black people. But somehow when you're with a white man, you feel comfortable. I could argue that I guess it makes more sense because when you're there with a white man, the idea and the concept is that he invited you into that space. So you've been approved, you've been validated in a way, right? Where if a black man is in that space and racist shit could pop off and the white people are looking at you like, or looking at the both of you like, we don't want no niggas here. This is our space, type of shit. So you could still feel a level of rejection in a space with a black man, even though he can afford to bring you into that space, right? Because we don't necessarily live we don't live in the world of coloreds eating the back or whites only. Like, we don't live in that world anymore, right? But there can still be some micro racial aggressions that pop off, right? So I can understand that to a degree. Right. But what I don't understand, like one of the comments in here talks about where Samantha Cooker said Tyrone with the braids. Tyrone with the braids. And it's like this is what like kicks shit off for me. Excuse me. This is what kicks shit off for me, because I'm like, how do we go from Tyrone with the braids all the way over to, Polo with the horses and Pretty Woman kicking over the steaming divots? Like, how do we go from Tyrone with the braids all the way over to, at the PGA tours, Tiger Woods just, hit a putt, I don't know, a birdie, and we're just sitting there going like this, and people are going shh, like, wait, like, and then like, do y'all know any black women that are comfortable in that type of space? Like, do you know any black women that are that like we don't buy it. It seems like it's more about some sort of way that you think or feel that you're putting down black men, or it's like when that chick the one I told you about, the one that was like I'll have you know that he had a Viking dick. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, what? Like you should have seen my face. I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? He had a Viking cock. Oh, I get it. So you want to tell me about how this white guy had this Viking cock, because basically she didn't feel desired by me like that. So she thought that she was going to read me my rights and tell me about how she was with a white guy and he had a Viking cock and his dick was better than mine. He put it on her better than I could ever put it on her. And I guess she thought in my tiny Negro brain that I was supposed to react and respond in a way where I was like, oh yeah, bitch, take this Zulu warrior dick. Right? Like I was supposed to, put the bone in my nose and pull out a spear, and fuck her on some African mud hut type of shit. Like, the fuck? Because I'm assuming, right, Viking dicks, and what counters Viking dicks is a African Mandingo Zulu warrior or some shit like that. You see how dumb this shit is? Right? But see, that told me what she really thought of me. Right? That I was just supposed to be, her sexual mandingo, phallus, who was supposed to not just fuck her, but I was supposed to ravish her and thirst her and all that shit. And because she felt that she wasn't getting that out of me, she had to basically low-key throw this sort of insult at me that I was supposed to react like how a nigga would react. Because niggas in the street, they would react like, oh, bitch, oh, yeah, come get this dick then, bitch. Oh. They would react like that. I was like, the fuck are you talking about, right? Intellectual black man from the fucking burbs. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm sitting there trying to process, why the fuck would you even say some shit like that to me? Like, I'm like, what is she getting at, right? I'm sitting there trying to put all the pieces in place to try to figure out why she's saying that, right? And I'm just saying, that's what I see, from these black women always, talking about white. Like, we don't buy it. We don't believe you, right? Like, it's like, again, going back to how much black women don't consider light-skinned dudes, black men. Because we notice whenever they're done with black men, whenever they're done with quote-unquote niggas, right? Like Captain Solo says, last exit before going over the fence, that being the light-skin exit, and black women, 85 miles an hour right past that exit, right to white men. It's like light-skinned dudes ain't even, like, you don't ever hear black women say, I'm done with these dark-skinned niggas. I'm going to go get with light-skinned niggas. No. They go completely over the damn fence. Right? And, not only that, it's like, it's not even just light-skinned guys. It's all other races of men. It goes, like, think about it. Like, when you look at the internet, how often do you hear black women talking about getting with any other race of man other than white men? It's always white men. It's not Hispanic men. I've heard Asian men a couple of times because of that sort of like, hey, you're rejected too, so maybe the rejects should get together, right? I've heard that bullshit. These women are not out here trying to get with, Arab men or Indian men or any of these other men. They go right to white men. Now, I'll give it a little bit of a pass because, like, obviously white people are the most abundant other group in this country other than, next to us, right? So, I get that. Plus, you have some of the other cultural differences that come into play. Some of the other groups have more colorism because they're not white and they want to be white. And so with the history of black and white in America, they look down on black, which is always funny because the same thing happens with black men. I'll admit that, where it's like, because I've had some confrontations with some Indian men that, like, they come here and they want white women. They want these blonde white women. I'm not even into blonde white women like that. Blonde women, redheads, you know what I mean? Like, that ain't my thing. If I was to get with a white woman, I would want, a dark brunette, probably olive skin, like somewhere around the Mediterranean, like Monica Bellucci type style. And that's where I would be at. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? But all these, whether it's the Latino men, they always want some rubia. The Indian men, they want a bitch with green eyes and blonde hair or something, or blue eyes and blonde hair. But, we see it. As African American men, you'll get these blonde hair, blue-eyed white women that they want African American men. Now, we've talked about this with the, obviously with the other races of men, they have a different culture, they have different religions, right? And African Americans and white people, despite the fact that we have all this animosity and all this back and forth and bullshit, I'm saying black American culture is still American culture, and there is a familiarity, based off of, whatever is that? What is that? 400 years of being in proximity to one another. You know what I mean? That we're, familiar, 350 years, whatever it is. Okay. Of being in proximity to one another, to where, black people know enough about white people's culture. White people know enough about black people's culture, and where, you can have those sorts of interactions. So I'll give black women a pass on that front. But honestly, I don't even really think, they really process all that shit that I said. I just think it's a power play, where they're like, white men are at the top and white men are in such and such a position. And I'm looking for the myth of white womanhood and the validation, because the real competition with black women is with white women. That's what the real competition is with. And nothing says, I have value or I've been validated as a black woman than being able to get a white man who is the one that set up the system where, that makes black women have to live in the shadow of white women. Right. This is, you following me? So, the other thing, aside from, going past the exit, like, 85 miles an hour, just blowing past the exit. The other thing is, like I said, we know how black women feel about educated lames. Okay, the squares. Many black men, in terms that are educated lames, and their behaviors and mannerisms, they're not all that far off from Brad and Chad. They're not. They act the same. They're not charismatic. They're not entertaining. They're not this. All they got is some stability. Okay? But again, black man educated lame stability is not enough. He can be driving the same car, live in the same neighborhood. Black women look at him like he's lame, he's corny, we don't want him, we're just not interested. Okay? And then black women will go and have a white guy, same thing. He's a white Carlton Banks. And black women will be running around talking shit like they won. You know what I mean? And you're sitting there, you're like, but this motherfucker's like literally the same. Hell, sometimes he can even be less than what the black guy's got going on, but because the black guy doesn't have game, fame, swag, charisma, right? So like the bar for the black man to black women is way higher than it is for the white man, right? You can't be a square black dude, but you can be a square white dude, and black women will go, for the square white. We've been peeping this shit for a while. Like, we got this shit like down to a science. We just we don't talk about it that much because we just recognize it as what it is, and because there's nothing that we can do about that. Once you get into, you have a totally different standards for one group of men versus another group of men. There's no challenging that. That's just how they perceive shit. It's literally a double standard. So we just throw our hands up, we shrug. You know what I mean? But I don't like any of the intellectual dishonesty, the way that sisters come online and spew all this shit and say shit that doesn't even make any goddamn sense. Talking about, pasta and lobster. All the seafood restaurants that black people love to fucking go to and eat, dipping shit in butter, getting a goddamn heart attack. And then you have the whole aspect of like I don't know what type of dusty crusty niggas y'all are fucking with. And some of y'all are really delusional because I know that for some of these women it just comes down to the fact that they don't look that good. And so they don't get the best quality men because the whole concept that men have to approach women. And if a woman is deemed generally unattractive, she's not going to have the guy with the bucks, you know what I mean, and the Benz. He's not going to try to shoot his shot at her because he don't look. He in his mind, he has his own concept of where he is and the type of women that he wants and how he wants the woman to look and behave and all that other shit. And this sister ain't it. Now, black women will jump up and they'll scream colorism and shit like that. But when you look at a lot of these women that are talking all this shit, you know what I mean? A lot of them are below average at best. You know what I mean? It ain't, they don't have no wow factor, no pop factor, no real femininity factor. They got to go over to listen to Six the Goddess and get makeup tutorial lessons. They don't know, what to wear, what goes with their body. Like they don't know. You know what I mean? Or they just be some real basic bitches. And I'm not even saying that to put them down. I'm just saying, I'm like, you the one that presented pasta and lobster. You the one that's talking this shit like you want 5-star hotels and everything else like that. You the one that's saying all this shit. But like, again, for some reason we can't have the conversation about a woman looking the part to be in that type of environment. We can't talk about that. We can't talk about, what the black man is getting out of it. You know what I mean? And I've seen a couple comments from white guys, that creep around in the space and they're like, yo, don't be coming over here with that bullshit, talking to black women, acting like black men's standards are too high and white men have low standards and white men are willing to accept the shit that black women are offering, right? Or like these concepts that black women think that they are good enough in terms of like where they are and their femininity and their beauty and just how they are as a woman, and that white men are going to accept exactly where they are, which is like the zone of no effort, and that black men, for not accepting black women's zone of no effort, are fucked up and self-hating and colorist because we're not willing to accept that. So they go out here, and you'll see them. You'll see these black women. They go out here and they get like these beta dudes. You know what I'm saying? Like fucking Karazin's husband was a beta dude. Like this dude, you know what I mean? Like why didn't he check her? All the years that she was online, why didn't this motherfucker check her? You know what I mean? Maybe she was bringing in the money and she was like, "Hey, I'm bringing in money, so what you complaining about?" You know what I mean? But I'm like, you spending 5 hours sitting there talking to Brooklyn Blue on a live and shit like that, and you got fucking 4 kids, and this man goes to work and come. Like, when are you spending time with him? When are you fucking your husband? When are you sucking his dick? When are you paying attention to him as opposed to sitting around talking about niggas all day? You know what I'm saying? I mean, just kind of like that. Like, yo, I told you, if I marry Becky, I'm the fuck out of these conversations. That shit is too toxic. It'll disrupt your relationship and everything else like that. And I don't get these black women that go off that you won. Okay, you won, chick. You won. You got Brad. You got Grant Wellington III. Okay, go over there and be fucking happy. No, we gotta make it a hot entire channel, even though I'm married. Even though not only that, I'm married as a single mother with a black child. Right? So I got a white guy to accept the child that I had with a black man. And yet and still, I'm just going to sit on here all day, every day, talking about what's wrong with black men. And tell black women I'm going to lead them to the promised land. Yeah, I think a lot of these women got the shit twisted. Just like with the shit with Sierra, you got women like, it's like, you are not Sierra. Sierra still looks good. Sierra was a multi-millionaire. Okay, so technically speaking, Russell Wilson getting with her was not any sort of charity case. I don't think that Russell should have got with her. I think it set the wrong message. It set the wrong precedent. You know what I mean? And it just opened the doors for a lot of black women to have delusion, thinking that men are interchangeable like shoes and that they can go out here and have a baby with, some dusty dude and then turn around and get themselves, a freaking, guy that's, a multi-millionaire or making, well into 6 figures. It's just a nonsense. And women are like, these women are like always processing it in this category of what I feel I deserve and these categories of what black women deserve, and black women, like there's a deep-seated inferiority complex that has not been resolved with black women, even amongst themselves. When they discuss it, it's always tied to, oh, well, black men made me feel this way, or a more advanced version would be, well, black men didn't create the environment to protect me from feeling this way. You know what I mean? So it's still the black man's fault, right? These sort of unresolved, mental issues. And again, we live in a white society, right? I'll give a black woman the idea that, all these negative things affected them because they didn't see themselves, on TV beyond Tatiana Ali and Lisa Turtle. And for the women who were darker than that, they didn't see themselves at all. Right. I get it. You know what I mean? But like, still, I'm like, you got to heal yourself when it comes to that shit, as opposed to, always trying to find a way to blame black men and then, doing this overcorrection type of bullshit. It's an overcorrection. I mean, how do you go from dealing with dust? How do you go from where I'm in poverty, I'm dealing with dust, and you just skip over like all different levels of class before you get all the way over to, pasta and lobster at 5-star restaurants, and being on the polo fields with your sun hat and your sundress, turning over the steaming divots. You know what I'm saying? It's like with the video I made with the joke, women talking about, yeah, that's right, take me to an expensive French restaurant, eating some escargot. They don't even know what the fuck escargot is. You know what I'm saying? Talking about they eating caviar. They don't even know what the fuck caviar is. And I just feel like there's this massive overcorrection, because like the things that I guess what black women aren't admitting is that they are attracted to and they do desire a lot of things that are immersed in the dust. And when they get burned by fucking with these guys, or the fact that they can't get the stability out of that dust cloud, now they're mad. But like, they don't want to own the fact that you was fucking with the dust. Right? That's why all your stories start with, and I was over here fucking with this nigga in jail. And I was over here and this nigga was staying at my place. And I was over here and I was fucking with Tyrone with the braids, right? I'm like, why is all your shit so goddamn dusty? Right? The educated lame crowd, you don't want them, right? We know that they exist because you complain about how they're all with white women, right? You can make the distinction then, right? They're all dating out. They're on some passport bros shit. And before they were on the passport bros shit, they were in and around the community, and you really weren't checking for them. You weren't. And y'all don't want to own that. And now you go and you literally try to find the white counterpart to the educated lame. You know, and I'm just like, oh my God. Just listening to y'all, it just sounds forced. It sounds like you're trying to hurt black men's feelings. And you're not, because you're not making, all you're doing is exposing yourself for the inconsistent, incoherent, babbling, emotional train wreck that you are. That's what you're actually doing. Because the overcorrect, I'm like, how did we go from Tyrone to Grant Wellington III? And then on top of that, if you're the type of black woman that you were out here fucking with Tyrone with the braids, again, I didn't say it, Samantha said it. Okay, you out here fucking with Tyrone with the braids, you know? And again, I hate the way that women try to make it seem like Tyrone with the brains, like everything was just unpleasant about Tyrone with the brains. With the braids, not brains, braids. You know what I mean? Like they didn't like the fact that he had game, that he was charismatic, that he had clout in the streets, that he could dance, the way he moved, you know, the way that, you know, she felt comfortable talking about black people stuff and black people jokes around. And they go and sit here and act like these dudes, you know, just start in dust, and that they stayed with him for 7 years, you know, and the whole time it was just oppression. Like, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. You know, like all these women trying to, like, they talk about, like, they get with these guys that are in the streets, and that it was horrible from the start, and there wasn't any moment of any enjoyment the whole time. He had me shackled to the bed and locked me in the attic, and came upstairs and, you know, slid a plate of sloshy food underneath the door. I'm like you let these women tell it. That's what you thinking. You think it was some sort of fucking, you know, one of these horror stories where the motherfucker locks some woman in the house and shit and has her as his sex slave, you know, for years on end. It's bullshit. That's bullshit. And then again, you know, that overcorrection. I'm like, if that's what you're dealing with, if that's what you were comfortable with, I don't believe that you have what it takes, that you have the etiquette, that you have the grace, that you have the femininity, right? That you even have the concepts of what these other men want. Because you damn sure don't got it even when it comes to the ELs. And ELs ain't much different than Brad, you know, which is what the majority of black women don't like about ELs. But yet suddenly we're supposed to believe, when y'all make these videos, that you know, not you know all about Brad, you know what Brad is into, you're willing to be into what Brad is into, and that Brad is going to be into you. And it's like, okay, you know, like, yeah, like yes, there's IR that goes on, but like this whole like in mass, like, you know, from white men towards black women, but this whole like in mass thing, the numbers don't support that. And I'm not saying that to discourage black women. I'm just saying, like, you know what kind of like is like an irritation for me? The fact that there's never any corrective action on the part of black women. You know, it's always like they always present something to avoid making the changes that black men have suggested, which would universally help them. Black men say, hey, there's a problem with the single mothers in the black community. Can't throw a rock without hitting a single mother, right? Majority of black men don't even have kids. There's more black women. There's like 2 million more black women that have kids than black men, and there's 2 million more black women, right? Like think about that. And damn, what was I gonna say about the sort of corrective shit? Oh, black men say black women need to lose the behavior. That would help, the bad attitudes and shit. That would help black women across the board. That would help black women interracially date. Black men say that black women need to lose weight. That would help black women across the board. That would help black women interracially date. So there's nothing that black men have suggested to black women that wouldn't help them interracially date. But again, when a black man says it, oh, it's a fight, it's all this other shit, and then we hear all these dumb arguments about, oh, these other races of men are going to accept me for me. You got white women out here being anorexic, goddamn starving themselves and shit like that, and I got a black woman talking about white man's going to want me for me. White men don't even accept the white woman, for her. She got to go out there and we all know she can't get fat, right? So it's just cringe just listening to this shit, and it just, you can hear the hurt, you can hear the butt hurtness, you can hear the saltiness, you can hear this sort of anger. And honestly, I really do believe that a lot of that anger is misguided. You know what I mean? Like, I think that a lot of these women, like, whether it's you got one category of black men and then you want another black category of black men to come to the rescue, or whether it's you have low self-esteem because of what you see in the media. Like, y'all remember that when that heavy-set black girl was, I forget what show it was. I don't know if it was Tyra or whatever. And they would try to set her up and do some interracial dating or something, and she was like, white men don't want me, black men don't want me, Asian men don't want me. Like, she was all, y'all remember that? I wish I could find the clip. You know what I mean? But she was up there, just all upset and whatnot. Like, I'm like, nah, see, that's society, just pummeling black women, with negativity and shit like that. And I'll say this, as a black man, you know what I mean? No, it is fucked up. And it is a failure on our part, as black men, as a collective of black men, right? That, at whatever point in time, in the past that, certain shit wasn't set up, to guard black women's, self-esteem, from, the mainstream media and the bullshit that they do. That is fucked up. I know a lot of brothers won't accept that. They're like, oh man, that's not our job. That is your job. Especially those of you, that, plan on having children or already have children and you got daughters. You're going to just look your daughter in the face and say, oh, well, society says you're ugly and unattractive. And you're just going to be like, well, that's how the cookie crumbles. Right? I mean, this is why, Chris Rock, went out and made his documentary Good Hair. Because, he saw that that his daughter at a very young age was already developing issues about her hair versus, other races of women's hair that she would always see on, television and shit, and Herbal Essence commercials and fucking, all other type of Pantene Pro V and the idea that, that is what makes a beautiful woman. You know what I mean? But like I said, black men, we got our own, set of problems, and a lot of times we don't pay attention to what's going on with the women. Like, we get hit with the criminality. It's not really about how we look and everything, because we're dudes, right? But we get hit with the criminality, the cops shooting us, and we're always seen as a threat and everything, even when we're not. All that shit that culminated to Emmett Till ending up dead, right? That's what we deal with. That's what our focus is, on most of the time. It's not on, what's going on with y'all. And then on top of that, there's a lot of black women mask these issues by, again, overcorrecting and just running around just being arrogant. You know what I mean? Or then running around and just being, ratchet, which sends all these confusing mixed messages. get your coochie scratched, like all that, freaking pound town, all that shit, or just arrogance, like I know I'm a bad bitch. And have you noticed, like, over the years, like, a lot of the women that be talking the craziest, talking about I know I'm a bad bitch, da 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 da, they be the first ones that at some point in time later they be having breakdowns, crying, writing in a book, be on Dr. Phil and shit like that, talking about, when I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a white woman, or I always had insecurities about being dark skinned or something. They always come out and say that later on. You know what I mean? But they be putting on these crazy fronts, this overcorrection, overcompensation, where they're like running around, just arrogant as fuck. And it's like nobody's going to feel bad for you or even know that there's a problem if you run around arrogant. I know I'm a bad bitch. I know I'm a bad bitch. I'm a bad bitch. You know what I mean? And then there's always some point where they crack and they end up fucking crying because something happened, some dude that they wanted rejected them or something like that. And then, like, it's like the whole fucking built up train of just all their personal shit just fucking explodes. And then next thing you know, they're crying and all this other shit, and everybody's feeling bad for her. And then we got to have 59,000 discussions about colorism and black women's self-esteem and shit like that. It's like, wait. This woman was talking mad shit for like 10 years straight. And now she's pouring her heart out. You know what I'm saying? I just think, like, I just keep seeing black women have all these, like, unresolved issues. Like, they don't level with you on any front. You know what I mean? They just go out here and they just keep thinking that they can speak shit into existence. Keep spewing the same old narratives that make them out to be the victim and make men out to be, the enemy and the harbinger of, all that is that the black woman is suffering from. It's tiring. It's tiring. And honestly, like, there becomes a point where it's like, you don't want to, the desire to not be around black women is the desire to not be around that. It's the desire to not be around the delusion. It's the desire to not be around the accusations. It's the desire to not be around, the blame that's going to be thrust upon you. Because as far as we're concerned, while y'all are running around screaming abandonment, we're like, hey, I wasn't even in the room. You know what I mean? Because the way that y'all run around and y'all are still, like, it's like you bring up Dusties and everything else like that. I'm like, why don't you just stop fucking with these niggas? Like, we've been saying that for over a decade. Like, why don't you just stop fucking with them? You know what I mean? And so, like, you would think that the rhetoric would, like, all this shit would stop, but it just keeps going because they will not let that shit die. Because, again, they like being the victim and all that other stuff. So it's like, men like myself, we're like, yo, let me get as far away from the blast area as possible when it comes to these women. Because the blame, that shit is going to fucking come around. And I want to be able to say, hey, chick, I wasn't even in the blast radius when that shit went down. Don't be coming over here trying to lay that shit at my feet. I wasn't even there. And then they'll try to make some argument. Yes, and you not being there is why this happened. Like, get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Again, when you're there as a black man, it's nothing but abuse. Let them tell it. Black men are nothing but abusive at all times, right? When you're not there, then it's abandonment. They have low self-esteem because in your abandoning them and then you were dating some other race of woman, you were putting her on a pedestal and therefore that hurt black women's self. So, like, you can't win. You can't win. You fuck with them, you line yourself up to be blamed for some shit. You don't fuck with them, abandonment, and you're the reason why they have low self-esteem and everything else. So like, I'd rather just deal with the abandonment. I'd rather just deal with that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather them talk that shit. I'm like, hey, I ain't got nothing to do with what's going on with you. You're a miserable fucking person, and I don't want to be around you. You're fucking miserable. You know, it's like, and you see it. You just see it in the comment section. You see it in the overcorrection. I'm like, it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? I said I don't like morbidly obese women. You ain't catching me out here running around with morbidly obese women. I don't like bitches with attitude. You don't catch me around here with bitches with attitude. I'm telling you about the things that I don't like and I avoided. Right? And if there's an overabundance of it, right, I avoided these things. When you talk to black women and shit like that, you come to find out, you know, they complain about dusty and dustiness and all this other shit. Then you come to find out the bitch got 2 kids by the nigga. And you're like, wait a minute. You over here acting like you're allergic to dust and you done had 2 of these niggas. You had 2 babies by this nigga? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where y'all don't make any sense. You know what I mean? Black men be running around, you know, I don't like black women. And he got 2 mixed kids. Y'all be running around talking about, I don't like dusty niggas. And you got 2 kids by a dusty. You know what I mean? Like, that shit don't make no fucking sense. Like, y'all bitches don't make no goddamn sense. You don't. And that's the part, right? Me being this intellectual person, that's the part that triggers me. I don't care. Look, I can empathize with anybody. I can understand where somebody's coming from, all that. But at least let your shit be consistent. I can feel for a sister that's like, yeah, me and his brother, we got married. You know, we tried to make it work. It didn't work out. We divorced. And I ended up being a single mom, you know, because I got primary custody, whatever. Okay, gotcha. I understand. Didn't work out. Gotcha. You know what I mean? But you tried to make it work, right? I can empathize with that. I can't empathize with the women that try to, you know, they try to paint that picture of, you know, I was out here, I was fucking with a drug dealer, you know what I mean? And then, you know, he went off and got locked up, went to jail. I became a single mom. And then he got out, went to college, got his degree, you know, went to law school, and then graduated and then married a white woman. And that's why I can't stand, you know, these. I'm like, wait. We talking about the same dude? I'm like, your story, this dude was a drug dealer, right? That's where we started the story off. And now you talking about a lawyer. He's a lawyer and he married a white woman and he's not taking care of his black kids, but he's over there with the white woman taking care of his mix. I'm like, are we like, how did like the shit trans? You ever have a dream where like you're talking to one person and like the whole dream you're talking to one person, but somewhere in by the end of the dream, like you got somebody in your passenger seat and it's a completely different person, right? It's a completely different person in the passenger seat of your dream when you get to the end of it, and then you wake up and you're like, why did they switch? Like it was consistent, and now even I'm confused. And that's how I feel about black women, you know, when they file their type of complaints. I'm like, let your dusty shit be dusty complaints. Let your uppity bougie nigga complaints be uppity bougie nigga complaints. Right? But see, again, I already know that they don't have uppity bougie nigga complaints because they don't fuck with that category of men. They're not interested in that category of men. They're just mad that, usually after the fact, after they, freaking Pookie done taken the best years of their life, now they're mad and now they want, some other dude to come through and play Captain Save-A-Ho. And again, because niggas have been comparing notes online and black men have put themselves up on game via all these online conversations, now, the pool of men, that the sucker ass pool of men has significantly shrunk. And these women are mad that they don't have that sucker ass pool of men anymore. And so now they online and they bitching, these niggas, and that's why we're going over the fence and we're getting with white men and we're going to overcorrect. I'm like, Tyrone with the braids, and now you're going to tell me about how you're going to go out there and be with Grant Wellington III? Really? Grant Wellington III, right? I'm like, okay, all right. You keep telling yourself that. Anyway, that's all I got to say. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.